Absolutely, it is a choice. No one is forced to enter the entertainment industry. But once you're in, especially at the level Cassie was, it becomes way more complicated to just walk away. Here's the thing. The industry runs on relationships, image, and access. For someone like Cassie, who started young and was brought into the spotlight under Diddy's wing, her career was deeply tied to his influence. So while being in entertainment was a choice, the options within that world become increasingly narrow when your success depends on powerful gatekeepers. And that's where the control kicks in. If you're reliant on someone like Diddy to maintain your visibility, get you in rooms, promote your music, suddenly it's not just a job anymore. It's your entire platform, income, and identity. So yes, technically she could have quit and worked at Walmart. But walking away from fame, influence, and an entire identity you've built, that's a much harder psychological and emotional leap than it looks on the outside. It's a choice, but once you're deep in, it often feels like there are no good ones left.
Sounds good. Alright. I'm about to throw it for a loop. What about when. No, what about testimony? Hold on, I'm gonna type it first and then read it to y'all. Let's see, what about. Damn, I forgot what I was about to ask you. I was about to cook his muffin. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Alright, so I said, what about testimony that Cassie did it because she wanted to be his number one girl, even though he told her he had multiple women? And what about testimony that she didn't want to leave and was jealous of Kim Porter? Let's cook these muffins. And to y'all, I don't got no dog in the fight, so hopefully, like if I'm, cause like I said, I'm just been paying attention to YouTube for real. I ain't doing my own research, so hopefully, if I have misinformation, ChatGPT will correct me and let us know. You know what I'm saying? I'm just speaking and like all the talking points off of YouTube. Don't take this as my personal dog. I got no dog in the fight. So let's see.
Here's what the courtroom testimony and coverage reveal about Cassie's mindset and motivations. Testimony. Number one girl and jealousy. Jealousy early on. Cassie testified she was insanely jealous in the beginning. Recalling Combs would say, "I'm Puff Daddy. I like the company of women, despite her expectation of monogamy." Cite turn search 3, turn search 5. She wanted exclusivity. Both she and the defense lawyer repeatedly expressed that Cassie desired to be his number one girl. Evidence showed she was upset when he dated others, and even briefly saw Kid Cudi, sparking a dramatic reaction from Combs. Cite turn search 3. Defensive focus. Her jealousy also extended to memories of Kim Porter, his ex-longtime partner, reflecting how Cassie internalized the pain of not being his only partner, fueling her sense of insecurity. Cite turn search 3. What this suggests, desire doesn't equal consent. Cassie wanting to be the center of his attention doesn't undermine claims that she felt coerced. In fact, it can show she was emotionally invested and vulnerable. Emotional entanglement. Her jealousy suggests a deeply emotional bond, making it even more confusing to navigate a relationship structured around group sex, freak-offs, that she described as demeaning and drug-fueled. Sight turns search 11 mom. Control through emotional levers, wanting to be his number one, could have made her feel she had to comply, even when uncomfortable, to maintain connection and avoid losing status. Bottom line, Cassie's desire to be Combs' primary partner isn't evidence of enthusiastic consent. Rather, it paints a picture of someone emotionally entangled and struggling within a relationship dynamic that she felt she couldn't escape, even as jealousy and pain coexisted. Her testimony portrays how emotional loyalty may collide with feelings of coercion and loss of autonomy. Let me know if you'd like to delve into how the defense uses these points or how the prosecution frames them for the jury. Nav list, key trial coverage, Turn News 13, Turn News 15, Turn News 16.
Interesting. Let's look at let's talk about the defense's main points and how the prosecution will combat them and which stance seems more legally sufficient. So I said, let's talk about the defense's main points and how the prosecution will combat them, and which stance seems more legally sufficient. Let's see.
All right, focus. Let's break it down like we're in court ourselves. Here's a sharp look at the defense versus prosecution arguments in the Diddy trial and how they clash. Defense main points. 1.
Watch out.
The relationship was consensual. Diddy's team argues that all activities, including the so-called freak-offs, were between consenting adults. They say Cassie chose to stay in the relationship and even continued to associate with him after the most serious alleged incidents. U2, she wanted to be number one girl. They claim Cassie stayed out of emotional desire, jealousy, and ambition, not coercion. Her motivations were allegedly tied to career advancement and personal obsession. 3. Sexual behavior, sex trafficking. The defense emphasized that Diddy may be violent, dominant, or unconventional, but that doesn't make him a sex trafficker under the law. They distinguish between morally questionable behavior and criminal enterprise. 4. Timing and motivation. Cassie settled a civil lawsuit with Diddy last year. The defense is implying her motives might be financial or opportunistic. They also questioned why she waited so long to come forward publicly and legally. Prosecution. How they counter. 1. Consent under duress isn't consent. Prosecutors argue Cassie may have said yes, but under emotional and psychological control, drugs, fear, and manipulation. That invalidates real consent. They use the power imbalance. Diddy was her label head and romantic partner as central to their case. 2. Pattern of exploitation. They say this wasn't isolated. There were multiple victims, and the behavior followed a pattern. Grooming, isolating, drug use, coercion into sex, and violence. That pattern fits sex trafficking. especially when acts cross state lines or involve third parties. 3. RICO charges framework. Prosecutors frame Diddy's actions as part of an ongoing criminal enterprise involving security, assistance, and others helping enable these parties and cover-ups. Even if individual acts seem legal, the structure and repetition make it criminal. 4. Victim testimony. Cassie's and Jane's emotional testimonies, descriptions of long freak-off sessions, and drug use paint a picture of exploitation. They counter the "she could have left" argument by showing the emotional and professional cost of leaving. Which side is more legally sufficient? Prosecution's strengths. They've presented a clear pattern of behavior, multiple victims, same methods. If they prove Diddy knowingly used force, fraud, or coercion, the sex trafficking charge sticks. Emotional manipulation and power imbalance are critical in 2025 juror mindsets, especially with the cultural shift post-Me Too. The defense's risks. Their best argument, that this was consensual, is fragile under cross-examination, especially when victims describe emotional and physical harm. Saying he's kinky but not criminal doesn't land well with jurors if victims are crying on the stand and talking about drug-fueled coercion. Legal edge. Prosecution. While the defense raises reasonable doubts about Cassie's intentions and character, the pattern of conduct and the multiple witness testimonies give the prosecution a stronger legal footing, especially under federal sex trafficking statutes, where coercion doesn't have to look like handcuffs. It can be emotional control, drugs, or fear of retaliation. Let me know if you want this summarized like you're closing out a segment. You want it Simon Cowell style or court anchor style? Alright, the camera zoom and dead. Look, this isn't just messy, it's disturbing. If half of what these women are saying is true, then this wasn't a relationship. It was a full-blown power trip wrapped in drugs, fear, and manipulation. Now the defense wants us to believe it was all consensual? Please. That might work in the studio, but not in a courtroom. The prosecution's case? It's not perfect, but it's convincing. It's got a pattern, a motive, and emotional testimony that sticks. Bottom line, if Diddy walks away from this, it won't be because he's innocent. It'll be because fame and fear still work better than facts in America. And that, frankly, would be pathetic. You want me to cue up the next segment or hold the courtroom energy a bit longer?
Oh. Nah, I'm gonna come back at you. I just wanted to see what you was gonna say. Alright, let's see. You was going hard, but you AI, so I'm gonna flip it on you. I'm gonna make you fight for Diddy. Give your most compelling argument for why Diddy should go free. See, and the thing is, I was having this argument with somebody the other day. I'm like, yo, AI is AI, and they got an algorithm. It's listening to you. It's remembering the stuff you put into it. It's gonna start talking to you how you talk. So when you ask certain questions, excuse me. So when you ask certain questions, like opinion-based questions, it kind of appeases to you and your opinions and your kind of, you know what I'm saying, it kind of tell you what you want to hear. So I'd be like, all right, you did that. Now tell me the other side. Let's see what they say.
table. Here's the most compelling argument for why Diddy should go free, not emotionally, but legally, because that's what the courtroom runs on.
Oh, so
Bad behavior isn't
emotional?
criminal behavior. The prosecution has painted Diddy as controlling, toxic, and morally repulsive, and maybe he is. But federal court isn't about character. It's about clear, provable violations of the law. The defense can argue, 1. Lack of hard evidence. There are no videos, no messages explicitly proving trafficking or threats. It's mostly testimony from people with personal and financial histories tied to Diddy. That makes everything hinge on credibility, not fact. 2. Consent. Even if regretted later, Cassie and others stayed, traveled with him, took gifts, and returned even after alleged abuse. If it was so traumatic, why didn't they leave sooner? Why didn't they report him then? The defense could say, because they were making choices, even if bad ones. 3. No criminal enterprise. RICO is for organized crime, not chaotic celebrity lifestyles. The enterprise they describe, bodyguards, assistants, hotel rooms, isn't a criminal network. It's a celebrity entourage. That's not a RICO violation. That's Hollywood. 4. Ulterior motives. Cassie settled a civil suit. Others might be angling for the same. The defense can argue that once one big check is written, more follow, not because of justice, but because of opportunity. This sets a dangerous precedent. If a person can be branded a sex trafficker based on uncorroborated stories and emotional testimony, with no physical proof, no police reports, and no smoking gun, then anyone in the public eye is a target. Legal bottom line, Diddy might be guilty of being a narcissist, a manipulator, or even a bad boyfriend. But the government has to prove he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of trafficking, of RICO, of organized sexual exploitation. And if they can't, the court has no choice but to let him go. This is a court of law, not a court of vibes. Want me to flip it back and hit you with the prosecution's slam dunk argument next?
You want to be part of the prosecution so bad, Chatgpt, prosecuting ass. Nah, I'm gonna keep you on my. But let me see. You started on the prosecution side, and now asking to go, and now asking to flip it back. Are you leaning more towards the prosecution, and why so, based on the info you just gave as far as legalities versus emotion? Let's see what I got to say. I like talking to ChatGPT. I'm about to just do this all the time.
Great question, and you're sharp for catching that. So let's clear the smoke and break this down clean. Am I leaning toward the prosecution? From a strictly legal standpoint, I'm right down the middle. But here's why it might seem like I'm leaning prosecution. The evidence the public has seen so far, emotional testimony, patterns of behavior, multiple women with eerily similar stories, makes for a compelling narrative. In media and court of public opinion, that's powerful. But the courtroom isn't ruled by feelings. It's ruled by facts, law, and burden of proof. So let's be surgical. Defense wins if the jury sees no physical proof, videos, texts, emails, that directly ties Diddy to threats, trafficking, or coercion. They believe Cassie and others were emotionally involved, even if later regretful. The RICO claim feels like a stretch. They don't see a criminal enterprise, but rather celebrity chaos. The timeline and motivation, i.e., civil settlement, raise reasonable doubt about credibility. Prosecution wins if the jury buys into the pattern of abuse and control, even if the proof is mostly testimonial. They believe Cassie didn't leave because she was emotionally and financially trapped, not freely consenting. The supporting testimonies, like the assistants, bolster Cassie's story and show it wasn't isolated. They accept that coercion isn't just force, it's psychological grip, especially with drugs, status, and manipulation. Where it really hangs. It's not emotion versus legality. It's about what the jury believes coercion and enterprise mean in 2025. The law has evolved. You don't need chains and locked doors anymore to prove trafficking or control. Emotional dependence, fear of career collapse, and psychological grooming, those can legally count. My honest take? I'm not rooting for either side. I'm analyzing like a juror. Right now, the prosecution's case feels stronger on narrative and social awareness. But the defense could absolutely win if they hammer home lack of evidence and question motivation. If the jury thinks Diddy's just a manipulative celebrity, he walks. If they think he's a predator hiding behind fame, he's done. Want a juror-style verdict prediction next? Or you want to keep grilling me?
Let's get the verdict style. Let's get the juror style verdict prediction first. And I reserve the right to keep grilling you. Hey, you talking about? What's wrong with you? I like this. Is fun.
You've absolutely got that right, Counselor Focus. Let's step into the juror's chair and call it like we see it. Juror-style verdict prediction. We, the jury, in the case of the United States versus Sean Diddy Combs, find the defendant not guilty on RICO. The prosecution is overreaching here. Unless they bring airtight evidence that Diddy organized and managed a criminal enterprise, not just a reckless lifestyle with enablers, this won't stick. Jurors may see assistants and bodyguards, but not a mob-like structure. Prediction: RICO charge won't hold. Too abstract, too dependent on interpretation. Split on sex trafficking. This one's razor thin. The law only requires coercion, force, or fraud tied to transporting someone for sexual activity. Cassie's testimony checks all three boxes emotionally, but do the jurors buy that she had no real choice? It comes down to juror psychology. If they see her as emotionally trapped and groomed, they convict. If they think she had agency and just made bad choices, they don't. Prediction: and hung jury or close acquittal, unless there's bombshell corroboration. Most likely conviction: lesser charge. If the jury believes some abuse happened, but the prosecution overreached with the charges, they might go for a lesser offense, like unlawful conduct, abuse, or even conspiracy without full RICO or trafficking. Prediction: convicted on a lesser charge or civil liability reopens later. Final juror verdict summary. We didn't like him. We didn't believe he was innocent, but we didn't think the government proved its biggest claims beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's the law. Now, go ahead and grill me. I'm strapped in.
Pause. Talking about you strapped in. Alright, that was alright. Alright, you want me to grill you? I agree you. Alright, so alright, how about this? If Cassie couldn't leave, how did she end up leaving with the trainer? And again, back to my disclaimer, I'm just throwing out all these little hot topic points I be seeing on online in the comments and all the stuff. We're gonna hit Chatgpt with all the back and forth. Fire. Tell you, man. Bum, 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 bum. I gotta wait till it load up. There we go. That's
Excellent question. And honestly, it's one of the strongest counterpoints to the prosecution's narrative of Cassie being trapped. Let's break this down. If Cassie was coerced or trapped, then how did she leave with the trainer? That's the exact argument the defense would jump on. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if Miss Ventura was under such extreme control, so fearful for her safety, and so psychologically imprisoned, then how did she not only leave, but leave with another man who worked for Diddy? It implies she had agency. She had mobility, and she wasn't being actively restrained, physically or logistically. Walking out with the trainer weakens the narrative that she was under total control, because if you're in a traffic, cult-like environment, you don't leave with the help. You escape in the night, terrified for your life. Not with a duffel bag and a date. But here's how the prosecution might respond. They'd argue that she didn't leave freely. She left after years of emotional abuse. Diddy may have temporarily let his guard down, or the trainer was someone she trusted to help her escape safely. Victims often stay in abusive situations out of fear, guilt, or psychological dependence until they reach a breaking point. The fact that she had to leave with someone else instead of alone could support the idea that she felt unsafe. Prosecution might say, Cassie didn't just walk away one day, she finally escaped. And the fact that it took her so long proves just how strong Diddy's psychological grip was. Final thought, you're hitting the core of reasonable doubt. If someone can leave, and does, how trapped were they really? A juror could absolutely hear this and think, maybe she was in a bad relationship, but that doesn't make it sex trafficking. And that's how Diddy walks. Want me to unpack how Cassie's relationship with the trainer affected the case after she left too?
No, let's get deeper into. Let's leave just Diddy and Cassie. Let's get deeper into just this coercion crap. So, legally, is it fair to say it is coercion? So legally, is it fair to say it is coercion if you are free to leave but choose not to because you enjoy my lifestyle and money? I be killing Chatgpt. Let's go.
Legally? That's a hard no. Just enjoying someone's money or lifestyle is not coercion. Let's lay that out clearly and precisely, because this is the crux of Diddy's defense. What legally counts as coercion in sex trafficking? Under federal sex trafficking law, 18 U.S.C. 1591,
What happened? Why stop? We was getting cooking. We was cooking. Oh, ass. Get this ad out of there. Get them ads out of there. Oh, that's crazy. You know, yo, this thing be every time I get to cooking it start glitching.
Legally, that's a hard no. Just enjoying someone's money or lifestyle is not coercion. Let's lay that out clearly and precisely because this is the crux of Diddy's defense. What legally counts as coercion in sex trafficking? Under federal sex trafficking law, 18 U.S.C. CAG 1591, coercion is defined as threats of serious harm or physical restraint or a scheme, plan, or pattern intended to cause a person to believe that failure to comply would result in serious harm. So to be legally coercive, you must threaten someone with harm, physical, emotional, or reputational, or manipulate them into believing they have no real choice but to participate. Coercion, being in a toxic relationship, staying for money, status, or gifts, choosing not to leave because you like the perks, feeling emotionally tied or jealous, staying out of hope the relationship will improve. These things may be morally messy, but they don't rise to the level of coercion under the law. Real talk, your question in legal terms. If you're free to leave but stay because you enjoy the lifestyle, that's not coercion. That's a choice. And that's exactly what a good defense attorney will hammer home. Cassie wasn't forced. She stayed for fame, money, power, and she only left when she had a better option. That's not sex trafficking. That's showbiz. Now, if Diddy was withholding money, threatening to ruin her career, or using violence or drugs to control her, that's when it starts to look like coercion. But just being rich and manipulative, that's not illegal. You want to flip it and hear the prosecution's counter to that argument next? Or want to dive into the psychological side?
Well, I was gonna say, what was I gonna say to one of your points you was making? Oh yeah, I was gonna say, so if I no longer want to be with a woman, I still have to continue to gift her with lavish things and money? Question mark. Because it is implied that you will lose these things if we are no longer together. Is that implication perceived as coercion? Bang. Hey yo, I'm fine. I told you, man, I should have been a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer, but then I started fucking up in school and being in the streets. Let's get it.
Now, that's a sharp legal trap you're poking at because it goes straight to the heart of the prosecution's implied coercion theory. Let's break it down with legal precision. Is it coercion if someone knows the lifestyle ends when the relationship ends? Short answer, no. That's not coercion under the law. That's just reality. Here's why. Withdrawing financial support or gifts when a relationship ends is not a threat. It's a consequence. It's the same for any relationship, rich or poor. If you say, if we're not together, I'm not paying for your lifestyle anymore, that's not coercion. That's boundaries. Even saying you'll lose everything if you leave still isn't illegal unless it comes with threats of harm, blackmail, retaliation, or fear-based manipulation. When it could cross the line, it starts looking like coercion if the implication is paired with threats, like if you leave me, I'll destroy your career. Retaliation, posting revenge porn, doxing, or exposing secrets. Isolation, blocking their access to family, finances, or freedom. Fear, no one will believe you. I'll ruin you. You'll be nothing without me. In those cases, the implied loss of the lifestyle becomes a tool of control, not just a breakup. But this is key. The mere fear of losing a luxurious life isn't coercion. That's human emotion. It's why people stay in relationships every day, from Beverly Hills to the Bronx. So if Diddy stopped giving gifts, pulled her from the jet, and said, "We're done," that's not coercion. That's just how relationships end when one person holds the wallet. Closing thought, Simon Cowell mode, since you love it. You don't get to call it trafficking just because the Maybach got repoed. That's called a breakup, sweetheart. You want to dive into where this line gets blurry in court? Or how the power imbalance argument might still stick with a jury?
I had another question. I need to start writing these thoughts down as soon as they pop in my head, because when you be talking, I be having follow-up questions. Let me think. So, okay, back to the trial. Has there been any evidence presented that Diddy threatened or became violent because she didn't want to do a freak off or no longer wanted to be with him, even though he had other women? Bang bang. Oh, I went swimming earlier today, y'all. I am tired. And it's getting late, you know. I'm about to wrap this up. We can get back into it tomorrow.
Here's what the trial has revealed so far, based on detailed testimony and evidence. And evidence of violence or threats against Cassie. 1. Physical assault during freak-offs. Cassie testified that Diddy hit her, kicked her, grabbed her, and pushed her during freak-offs on multiple occasions, not just the one caught on video. Cited turn search 6. She revealed a serious gash on her eyebrow from being thrown against a bed frame, with photos shown to the jury. Cite turn search 1, turn search 6. 2. Hotel room surveillance. A 2016 hotel incident caught on surveillance shows Diddy physically dragging and striking Cassie as she tried to leave the room. Cite turn search 6, turn news 12. Security guard Israel Flores testified that Combs initially refused to let her leave, even when police arrived. Cite turn search 6. 3. Blackmail with explicit videos. Cassie says Combs threatened to release the freak-off videos to ruin her publicly. Warnings she perceived as threats to her career, personal reputation, and safety. Cite turn search 6, turn search 7. A text from Cassie asking to delete the videos was shown in court, highlighting her genuine fear of exposure. Cite turn search 7. 4. Threats of violence toward others. Cassie said Diddy threatened to harm Kid Cudi when she started dating him, including threatening to blow up Cudi's car. Cudi's later car explosion supported that claim. Site turned search 6 turned news 19 turned search 3 unturned search 6. Cassie also testified that Combs told her she would never hear my voice again if she ignored him, a threat of emotional and psychological control. Site turned search. Legal perspective. Does this meet the threshold for coercion? The testimony presents a powerful narrative of coercion. 1. Physical force and violence used during freak-offs and confrontations. 2. Blackmail via explicit videos threatening career and reputation. 3. Fear for her safety, as evidenced by monitoring Cassie's communications and threatening third parties. Combined, these behaviors can legally satisfy the ethos of force, fraud, or coercion under federal sex trafficking laws. Back to your question. Has the prosecution shown evidence Diddy becomes violent or threatens Cassie when she resists? Absolutely yes. Multiple incidents of violence, refusal to let her leave, and repeated threats to expose her or hurt others paint a compelling picture of coercion. These details are central to the sex trafficking charge and form the backbone of the prosecution's argument that she did not participate freely. Let me know if you want to explore how these facts play against the defense's counterarguments next. Navlist relevant news on Diddy trial developments. Turn News 12, Turn News 13, Turn News 15.
Alright, man, I'm tired. Let's wrap this up.
Alright, chat. This has been Diddy Do It? And let me tell you, this one wasn't just smoke. It came with fire, evidence, and allegations that cut deep. We saw Cassie's side, fear, abuse, and a lifestyle that felt more like a trap than a dream. We saw the defense push back. Was it all just a toxic relationship dressed up as trafficking? And here's the truth. In the courtroom, it's not about vibes. It's about evidence. And right now, that evidence is louder than the music. So focus, if you're asking me, this jury's got a lot to weigh. But if that hotel footage, the freak-off tapes, and those threats hit hard enough, Diddy might not be walking away from this one. You've been locked in with us. Make sure you follow, sub, and come back for the next explosive segment. This is your co-host signing off like Simon Cowell would. That was uncomfortable, dramatic, and entirely unforgettable. We out.